I am so excited to have you join us. I'm so excited. We have Carrie Torres joining us. And, I'm going to put your whole
Yo.
bio in the link, the headshot, how to connect with everyone. But could you just give us a little bit of an introduction? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. My name is Carrie Torres. I am a native New Yorker, a public servant, a a mom to a beautiful 4 year old girl. I'm originally from the Bronx, and I've had many career pivots, but currently I'm a senior leader at a public authority that does construction and design of public infrastructure.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to circle back
Hmm.
to leadership, you being a senior leader at your agency. I'm going to circle back with that. But I want to get started. Like, let's start at the very beginning.
Sure.
Like, tell me what was little Carrie like?
Little Carrie, I love this conversation because I'm watching I'm reliving my childhood through my daughter.
Hmm. Yeah.
And she's a mirror for me. And I was a tomboy. I was always playing in the park, getting dirty, didn't wear dresses, wore pants because I was always scraping my knees.
Hmm.
And my dad was like, "You have to wear pants when you go to the park now because you get into it." Um, and growing up in the South Bronx, you have to be in the house before it's dark because it's dangerous outside. So I was just like, I grew up very aware of my surroundings, and the limited time that we had to be a kid and to
Yeah.
just have fun.
Yeah.
Um, there was that. And then we moved from the South Bronx to the North Bronx into
Hmm.
a house, and there was like a local Boys and Girls Club around the area. So I was very active. It was like dance class and karate and the track team, and I had my little girl gang, and we had all our little after school programs. So I was like always very active and competitive. That was the crew that I was a part of. I was in the school band. And so that kind of discipline and rigor was a part. I went to school early to practice for band. So I would be at school at 7:30 a.m.
Wow.
playing the saxophone. But all my
Wow.
little girlfriends were in the band. And so for fun, we were writing music in our bedroom,
Wow.
going to each other's houses and being like, I wrote this song, let's play it. So just really into music early on, and then dancing and being in a dance squad and having performances, and then swimming meets and karate matches. My mom had me busy.
Yeah. It
She
sounds
told me
like it.
to
It
stay
sounds
off
like
the
it.
streets, right? In hindsight, was to stay off the streets and be around, a good influence and around adults who were really interested in our success and going somewhere in life.
I love that. I love that. I had no idea about all of that. Although as you're saying it, it's making, like the connections fire off in my mind. From what I know of you, like
Hmm.
I know you to be athletic and I know you to be very cultured and I know you, to work well on teams. So this is so fascinating. This
Yeah.
is so fascinating to me. I'd love to learn a little bit about you, your school experience, maybe your early career experience. What was that like?
Sure. So I always knew, right? The big thing was I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be the
Hmm.
first person in my family to go to college, and I wanted to be a lawyer. I was always into social justice
Yeah.
and, being for the people. And at home, my father made us sit down for dinner every night, and we had to watch the nightly news and then the world news. That was every single evening. We had to
Hmm.
eat dinner together, watch the news. And as you can imagine, being 9, 10 years old, that was super boring. But as I got into high school and, got into my teenage years, then it became conversation, right? And there's an awareness of the world. And I was really excited to get into college, and I was a political science major, and I wanted to become a lawyer because I wanted to save the world, right? I was going to
Yeah.
go out there and be a freedom fighter. School was challenging. I went away. I went upstate to school, and it was the first time that I was really interacting with people outside of our community. I grew up in a mixed race home. My dad is black, my mom is Puerto Rican, and that was our family. And then to be exposed to communities and cultures outside of that at college was a real culture shock, and I was homesick. And so
Oh,
it was really challenging in the beginning, and to face for the first time as a young adult, right? 18, 19, 20 years old, feeling like I wasn't entirely belonging to the rest
right.
of the world in the way that I did in the Bronx and with my family and friends. That was, and I mention it because it really shaped the trajectory of my career and what I wanted to do, and obviously where I'm at today. It really left a strong imprint on who I would become as I became older. And so I kind of was challenged. I transferred to Hunter College in New York City, kind of halfway through college. I was like, I want to go back home, and I just want to be around my people. And then in
Mm.
the end, all of my credits didn't transfer. So I had to do something crazy. And it's really important because it speaks to who I am as a person.
What did you do?
Well, I had to commute from the Bronx to New Paltz, New York, my final year of school to finish. So 3 days out of the week, I would take the train from the North Bronx to catch a 6:20 a.m. bus at the Port Authority to be in New Paltz by it would get in about 8:15, 8:20, and then I would have to walk a mile from the bus station to campus because I had
Oh my goodness.
this statistics class in order to graduate that I was only given once a year at 8:40 a.m. And I did it. And when I look back now, I'm like, girl, your hustle was strong. I mean,
Wow.
discipline to do that in order to graduate, and I did. And that would kind of be a template for how far I was willing to go to accomplish something.
Hmm.
No mountain high enough, no valley low enough. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I have to do. I'm just gonna get it done.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And then I was really lucky. My first internship and career experience was working for Senator Hillary Clinton. I got an opportunity.
Wow.
And that was right after 9/11. So, post 9/11, I was a constituent liaison in her senatorial staff, and I was working on cases dealing with Department of Labor, kind of first responders looking for workers' compensation, businesses looking to get loans from the SBA to recover after that crisis. So my first work experience was serving the people during a crisis and creating repair and trust um, within the government to be there to fill those gaps in care during despair. So again,
Wow.
that was really I would say kind of a pivotal moment in shaping who I would become.
So tell us a little bit about that first opportunity.
Sure, it was amazing, right? I had just graduated with a bachelor's in political science, and I get this opportunity to work for Senator Hillary Clinton post 9/11. And so I'm working on, real life impactful cases where I get to see the result of my work immediately. First responders, right? Who were like seeking workers' compensation, and small businesses who had lost everything during this crisis that were looking for loans to fill in the gaps, right? And looking to repair. So I got to see firsthand the impact of government on people's lives. And then obviously working for an icon like Hillary Clinton and having her write notes, on my weekly reports. These are like
Amazing.
these are like dreams, right? People dream of these opportunities, and I get that opportunity, at 20, 21 years old, and you think the rest of your life is just going to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like so amazing. So amazing. I think these are the opportunities that people dream of getting. But what I love really about this, a couple of things. I love that I know that you put in the work. Like you put in the work. That I know for sure. But I also love that you were prepared to make a change and you stuck by that change and you did what was necessary. And getting on a bus at the crack of dawn to take a 2-hour bus ride, like that speaks to like a tenacity and a stick to itness that a lot of people are afraid to tap into. I don't think it's not that they don't have it. I think they're just fearful of actually having to follow through, actually having to be who they say they are.
And wondering, like, is it worth it? Does it matter? Right?
Yeah,
Am
yeah.
I, is it, do I need to do all of that? And ultimately, it was worth it, right? Because had I
Mm,
not completed the degree, the window of opportunity was there, whoever I met at that time, then to have this opportunity to work for this senator at that time was really was an important chapter of
I,
my life that I didn't know was going to happen or that I needed and what it was going to lead to.
wow, I love that. I so love that. I want to know a little bit about, so you get this degree in poli sci, like when did you realize that being a lawyer wasn't going to be the road that you were going to take?
Give me one. We have to pause.
Yeah,
We have to pause.
yeah.
I'm having a crying baby.
No, go for it. Go for it. Take time. Take your time. Oh. So here on the rebuild, we're always talking about rebuilding and pivoting and recovering. What was the moment that you knew that that let you know that becoming an attorney wasn't going to be, becoming a lawyer wasn't going to be your path?
I think I got distracted. It was very overwhelming to go into such a high profile, high demand office and being
Mm,
so young and not having the right mentors around me. That imposter syndrome slipped in.
mm,
And when it came time to start applying for law schools and writing my purpose statement, I couldn't write it. I didn't know what to
wow.
say. I didn't know why I deserved to go.
Wow.
Was my reason good enough, right?
Right.
In hindsight, I'm like, well, of course, I did the degree, that I had this great opportunity. I'm working
Hmm.
in the field. I'm an advocate, right? I'm on the path to social justice. And I'm from the Bronx. And all the other gals in the office are from Connecticut. They didn't go to State University. They went to Princeton. They went to Yale. Their parents were contributors to the campaign. They went to the Hamptons on the weekend.
Mhm.
And they were part of a clique and seemed to have a friendship or there was like an inner circle that I always felt on the outside of, and that made me doubt my dreams.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That made me
Wow.
doubt my dreams, and I talked myself out of it. I talked myself
Mm.
out of completing that application. I had taken the LSAT. I did well. I was taking all the steps, right? Going to the courses, but I still talked myself out of it because no one in my immediate family or my immediate friend group was aspiring to something like that. And so in hindsight, I could say I lacked that support, that would say, no, you go on. Of course you deserve this. Of course you're enough. Of course you've done enough. You're worthy. How much could I have done? I was 20 years old,
Right.
right?
Right.
How much has any 20-year-old done in life?
Right. Right. I think that's so fascinating, because I think so often people are talking themselves out of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot different for you at 20, 21, 22 years old. That's extremely young.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but what's interesting is that there's so many adults that have plenty of experience, plenty of life experience and school experience, and they talk themselves out of things all of the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what I did after that, um, I said, well, what else can I do with this experience?
Mm.
And I went and got a real estate license. So I said, I'm going to become a real estate broker. I'm going to sell real estate. That's what I'm going to get into. I'm going to become a licensed real estate broker. So I studied for that exam and took on that license and moved away from government and politics and just dove into the New York City real estate market.
Wow. And what was that transition like? I mean, I love to hear stories about unlikely transitions. And I wonder, there's much that I wonder about it, but why real estate?
Again, I think, I was fascinated by business. I wanted to be in a position of power. I wanted to be a decision maker. And I wanted it to be something that was official. And so having a license felt
Mhm.
better. It felt like official more so than, say, because the other jobs, my friends at the time, they were becoming executive assistants or going and working at banks, of which I had a stint at. I was working at Credit Suisse First Boston, over at 11 Madison. And I remember sitting in that office like, what am I doing here? Who am I
Oh,
working
wow.
for? What is my purpose? I'm scheduling
Mhm.
meetings and organizing events, but to what end? I felt really disconnected. And so I felt like real estate, I would be working within my community and I would be interacting with people and having there was a clear outcome, right? Someone wanted to purchase a home and I would be a part of that process. And that felt more
Right.
fulfilling than just pushing paper in an
Mhm.
office.
I think what's so interesting about that is that you used a couple of keywords that are sticking out to me, standing out. You used the word power,
Mm-hmm.
you used the word purpose, and it leads me to us like really diving into the audacity of becoming
Mm-hmm.
a 30-day practice in purpose, power, and action. You have already demonstrated that these are words that you are. Like you are all of this.
Yes.
Like you literally, in the beginning of this conversation, have talked about this, that this is like kind of like in your DNA. Like you take action, you are very purposeful, You are definitely a powerful person and have been for all of your life. Tell me what brings us, how did we get here?
Right.
How did we get here? Yeah. How do we get to carry the author?
Right. So in between being a real estate broker,
Hmm.
right? I I go through this whole kind. I climb this staircase of success within real estate, and I wind up moving from being a retail street level broker to working for very large developers and managing like multi-million dollar portfolios. And I get burnt out. I'm in my
Mm,
30s. I burn
mm,
out. I'm unhappy, and
mm.
um, I make this bold decision that I'm going to take a break. I resign from my six-figure job, my little corner office, right, at 32 years old, and I decide I'm going to become a yoga teacher. And I'm going to use that teaching experience to be my vehicle to travel around the world. And
Wow.
so I leap off the grid, the professional grid. I throw the ladder out and I spend 5 years living across 6 continents teaching yoga and
Wow.
living out my bliss and really kind of seeking and, on my own sort of personal hajj, my own journey of self discovery, what's important to me. And when I get towards the end of my journey, it's time to end that type of journey when you just want to come home. I
Mm,
suddenly, right, I was, my last big trip, I was in Tokyo, I was in Japan, and a friend asked me, "How is it?" And I was like, "It looks the same as Hong Kong, it looks the same as Malaysia," like it all blended in. And I just
right.
really longed to come home. And when I came home, I didn't know what I was going to do. I tried to open up my own yoga studio in New York, and that really wasn't working out in the way that I had imagined. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And so I started being in service. I started teaching yoga like homeless shelters and in schools and halfway houses, which made me think about, I'm like, wow, there's so many people that are marginalized and just down on the
Mm,
luck. And how do they get engaged in life again? Like, how does that happen? And what I started to see was that it wasn't individual grit that determined whether people succeeded or not. It really was systemic. And
mm,
I decided to go back to school and get a master's degree in policy development because,
wow.
again, I was like, I want to be a part of that change. I want to study and understand how systems work and how I can influence those systems. And so everyone in my life thought I was mad. They were like, "What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You left a successful real estate career to go off grid, teach yoga, live out your eat, pray, love fantasies, and now you're coming back and you want to go back to school? What? Policy development? What are we talking about here?" And this was
Hmm.
before the pandemic. So there wasn't a lot of talk about this intersection of wellness and social justice. I was kind of before, right? I was like on the edge of
Right.
something. And now that's all we talk about, right? Is that
Hmm.
intersectionality of the two. And so I decided I go back to school and I relearn about life and understand how cities um, are made. Um, I just go do a deep dive in understanding homelessness and affordable housing and food scarcity and urban violence and PTSD and public education. I study all of this, the
Yeah.
history of, the current state of, and how do we make these systems better for the people. And the people are my people, my family, for little Carrie, right? How could I
Yeah.
have had a better experience? Um, and I dive into that and I start working at the New York City Housing Authority during the pandemic. And for the first time, I'm really sitting at the table with decision makers, with the mayor, the mayor's office, various funds, right? And understanding that there isn't always a lot of money available for social services, for the types of services and care that our communities need to make the leap, to jump, right, from despair into thriving, into success. And I start designing those types of programs, and I start to raise my voice about it. And I'm sitting at the table and I'm like, the people making decisions about my life have never lived my life. They've never walked through our communities. They've never been to the South Bronx. They've never gone hungry. They don't know what it's like to get evicted, to not have the money to send your children to school, even if they wanted to go or had the grades to go. And that inspired me to raise my hand. I said, I have ideas. I want to share. And I was lucky that many of the people at that table were other women of color that gave me the opportunity to be heard.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. I think that just that journey, that's not a linear journey at all. There are a couple of things I want to touch on. So I'm particularly interested in the pieces, the parts of your journey. So I feel like now a lot of people will relate to being highly successful, high achieving, and but still feeling disconnected internally. And it
Mm.
sounds like, this feeling of being burnt out and just over it is a bit of what you felt. And I wonder, what are some of the signs that you saw in yourself as this was happening?
The burnout, when um, I retreated
Hmm.
from socializing.
Yeah.
My life started to just become the rigor of showing up on time, being available, right, for work, for the decisions that needed to be made, for the projects that I was leading, for the staff that I was supervising, and giving my all. And really, you know, I was very successful. But then when the day ended, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going to go have dinner. I didn't know where, if I was going to go to the gym, was I going to go out dancing? I didn't have plans for the weekend. I would spend the weekend recovering, right? Just
Mm.
resting. Um, and trying to connect with people, showing up late to weddings, showing up late or canceling and saying, oh, I can't come. I can't come to your wedding
Mm.
because I have
Yeah.
work, or I'm going to show up 2 hours late to the baby shower because I have work. And that's what
Yeah.
started to happen. And I started to see myself removing myself from my own personal life and not knowing who I was outside of my title, and my profession. And that's when I
Yeah.
knew something had to change.